What's up, guys? I'm Versatility. You're watching the Versatility Effect. And first of all, please excuse my flashy attire. I have somewhere to go tonight. And second of all, I'm here to discuss and introduce my new and upcoming game reviews. So I sat down and made a criteria for my game reviews, and I wanted to break it down to you before I actually implement it into the games. So let's get right into it. The very first thing that's going to happen in the review is that there's going to be an introduction to it. It's going to be something that summarizes the review overall. Tells you the quick positives and cons of the game. Then the second thing that I'm going to be discussing is what I call experience, the experience of the game overall. And in the experience, I try to capture basically not just necessarily gameplay or story, but to really capture the feeling and emotion that you're getting while playing the game. So when I'm discussing experience, this is basically the crux of the review. When I discuss the experience, I'm going to be discussing things like what type of game is it? Is it a sports game? Is it a brawler? Just the overall feel of the game. And the second thing would be the story. Talk about the story, if it has a story element at all, and how does that story come into or connect with the gameplay. And three, I'm going to talk about the voice acting and the audio visuals. Not just the voice acting, but also the the sounds of the environment, what you're experiencing. If you're having, let's say, surround sound around you, if there's a clash, does that clash sound realistic? Does it not? Is it meant to sound realistic, etc.? And the visuals, what type of visuals does it have? Is it visually appealing, using, let's say, the techniques that it's trying to use? Included in the experience is going to be the content. So how much content does the game actually give you? And finally, for experience, I'm going to be talking about the learning curve. How long it takes for you to be acquainted with the game or more comfortable with the game. Something like Army of Two, for instance, the learning curve for getting a spot on shot is really steep. You're not really going to get a spot on shot even throughout the whole entire game, most likely, unless you're some superhero. But and something like Fight Night or Marvel vs. Capcom, it's not going to be, the learning curve is not that steep. You can just pick it up and start pressing the buttons, and you might still have some fun with it right from the beginning. So that's what I mean by learning curve. Then we're going to move from experience, and we're going to talk about the controls. And the whole review is, I'm trying to capture as many details as possible about the game without losing the overall perspective of the game, which I think a lot of reviews do. So you'll see as I keep moving along. So the controls, this is the second thing I'm going to be talking about, which is the controls. What type of controls is it? Is it tactical controls? Is it button mashing? Just talk a little bit about that. And number two, the responsiveness of the controls. That's I find it to be something that's important. Also, it's part of how addicting a game can be and enjoyable a game can be. If immediately you press a button and it immediately responds to you, then this is a good thing. But something like, let's say, Fight Night, it has a slight lag when you press a punch. So you kind of like have to calculate it. So that's what I mean by responsiveness. Does it do what you want it to do? And thirdly, the intuitiveness of the controls. Is it intuitive, or do you have to, get used to it? Which basically leads to the learning curve of the controls. The third thing I'm going to be talking about is the purpose. Now, that's something that a lot of reviewers do not talk about, and I purposely want to talk about this. And what I mean by purpose is, does the game succeed in what it's trying to convey? For instance, if I give you an example of something like Eat Lead. Eat Lead is a game that's trying to make fun of other games. This is the whole purpose of it. The whole purpose of the game is not to have the best gameplay mechanics. So when a reviewer comes and reviews the game based on the fact that it has bad aim in certain areas, or it's not fluid in the sense that one time it might be good at one thing and another time it's not consistent. That reviewer is missing the point of the game. The whole point of the game is to make fun of other games and their game mechanics. So it's really for you to figure out the witty comparisons. So this is something that I'll take into account when reviewing the game. Is it fulfilling its purpose? And also, what audience is it trying to appeal to? So for instance, a game like Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 5 is naturally a Resident Evil game, And Resident Evil fans would come to this game expecting it to be similar to Resident Evil 4. Although the gameplay mechanics of the game of Resident Evil 5 are similar to Resident Evil 4, the overall feel is not. And I don't think it's trying to appeal to, let's say, the horror genre fans. But if a reviewer is reviewing the game based on the fact that it's not a horror game, then it's going to get a bad review. But if it reviews it based on the fact that it's a pretty good action game, then it's going to get a much better review than if it was seen as a horror game. So again, what audience is it trying to appeal to? And what audience does it actually appeal to? And I think this game actually appeals to more action-oriented, kind of like fans of Uncharted or any of these third-person shooter games or over-the-shoulder shooter games. Fourth category, which is the versatility or universality of the game. And this is something that reviewers don't talk about at all, really. So basically, what is universality of the game? This is talking about, is it child-friendly? Is it guest-friendly? And is it non-gamer friendly? So child-friendly, is it made so that a child can play the game, or would it be too gruesome or too mature for him or her? Second, guest-friendly. For instance, a game might be really good, but if you have guests, it might not be a good choice for guests. So something like Just Dance, that game might not get the best reviews because of the fact that it's not, it's just a dancing game. It's not really anything. But then when you put it into a party setting or family and whatnot, and you have guests over, this becomes an impressive game, an extremely fun game. So again, you have to take these things into consideration. And also the last thing, which is it non-gamer friendly? Let's say if someone is not necessarily a gamer, or they don't play games, would they be able to sit down and play Uncharted 3? I really doubt it. But would they be able to enjoy, let's say, even watching Fight Night Champion? I'm pretty sure they would, because the fact that, especially if they're boxing fans, if someone is a boxing fan, and I've seen it with my family, and two people are competing with each other, they might relate more to a game like this than, let's say, something like Street Fighter, and they might find it enjoyable to watch Muhammad Ali versus Frazier than Ryu versus Ken. And now this moves me towards the fifth element of the reviews, which is the rating system. Now the rating system is not the typical one, which is based on a score or ABC or 1, 2, 3, whatever, out of 10 or out of 5. It's not based on that at all. The purpose of a review, I think, is for a viewer to have a better idea as to whether they should or should not play the game. But let's say if you have like a score of a 5 and a score of a 4 on a game out of 10, there's really no big difference between a 5 and a 4. The person is more likely not to play it. Why would I play a game that's 5 or 4 when I have games that are 8 and 10s? It just doesn't make sense. So it really puts down certain games more than it probably should. So my rating system is based on 4 different elements, or 4 different rating grades. The first rating is don't bother. So for instance, don't bother playing the game at all. Don't even think about it. You're definitely not missing out anything on it. So I'll give you an example right now, without even reviewing the game. Baja 1000, this game, don't bother. It's humanity would be better without it. There's absolutely nothing that I can recommend about it. It's not really that interesting at all. And you can definitely play other games much better for even cheaper prices. So that's an example of don't bother. The second rating grade would be give it a try, and this would be you may get some enjoyment out of it. The game doesn't necessarily mean it's the best game in the world, but you should still give it a try. And that is, I'll give you an example, Legendary. Legendary, if you're looking at this review like, oh, Legendary is garbage, Legendary is horrible, this game sucks, nothing good about it. From my experience of playing it, yes, it's a bad game compared to other games, but it's not that bad to the point where you can't play it at all. I might say I might give this game a grading of give it a try, in the sense that it's up to your discretion. You're not really losing much if you just give it a try. And there's more to it at the end. And the third grade is you should play. So basically I'm recommending this game for you to play. So a game that I would recommend would be Army of Two. Again, it's not the perfect game, but it has enough elements in it that would keep you playing and keep you having fun. So this is a game that I would say you should play. And the last rating I would give is you must play. So a game that I definitely think you must play is Heavy Rain. It's something that's so unique, that's so intriguing, that if you have a PS3 or if you're a PS3 owner, you definitely have to play Heavy Rain. You know, it has so many elements in it that it's just a mind-boggling experience, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience in terms of the gaming world. So again, just to break them down, it's don't bother, give it a try, you should play, you must play. And this will give you more of a sense of what should I do with this game? Should I even approach it? Should I not approach it? And I think that's the whole point of a review in the first place. Two last things, which is one is not a badge, I'm sorry, it's a stamp. So I have two stamps that I would give games that I feel they deserve it. One is an underrated stamp, and two is an overrated stamp. So for instance, I would give a game like Army of Two an underrated stamp. Underrated does not necessarily mean that this is the best game in the world, but it means that I don't think people have given it as much credit as it probably deserves. So Army of Two, I might give it the review of you should play after discussing all the details, and then I'll tell you it has an underrated stamp. A game that I would say has an overrated stamp, I would say, is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Now, this is not to say that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is a bad game, or that it's a game that you shouldn't play, or that it's garbage. It's just to say that don't go into this game expecting like it's the best thing in the world, as if there's no other game in the world like it, like other people have made it out to be. Maybe for newcomers it might feel that way, but overall, compared to other games and compared to the other Call of Duties, it's not as great as people have made it out to be, but it's still a good game. It's a great game, but it's not as, oh my god, I'm gonna die if I don't have this game type of thing. So I would give this an overrated stamp after giving it, let's say, you should play. And lastly, price. Now, I think price makes a huge difference in regards to a review of a game, because one problem that I see with updated reviews, which, you know, the game just comes out and you give it a review right away, is that usually the games, they all come out $60. You know, they all come out costing with the price tag of $60. So when, let's say, I would never in my life recommend Legendary for the price tag of $60. I think that's ridiculous. This game does not deserve $60. So hence, I would give it a bad review, because the fact that it's worth, you know, its price tag at $60. But if I give you the review based on the game itself, and then I tell you what price tag I think you should get it, I think you should probably get this game for, if you could get it for $5, then you should probably give it a try. You know, you're not really losing much, and you might have some enjoyment out of it. But if you're paying $60 for the game, you're gonna really lose a lot of money on this one. So that's the last thing, which is the price. At what price do I recommend that you buy this game? Something like Heavy Rain, I would recommend that you buy it even if it was at $60. I think it's worth it that much. Some games that you should look out for that I'm going to be recently reviewing are going to be the Assassin's Creed series, the Fight Night Champion, Vanquish, Army of Two, X-Men Origins, and Turok. And I'm going to be focusing more on games that are not usually reviewed too much. For instance, Turok, that's not really given too much attention. I'm going to be looking at games that sometimes they didn't even get a review at all, like Turning Point didn't get a review. Legendary, I don't believe it even got it didn't get a video review. I don't believe it got much reviews overall. And just generally games that have went under the radar or that people have not been playing recently anymore. So, you know, that's why I think just try to look more at the gems. Of course, there's going to be those that are more popular, like Fight Night or maybe Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, for instance. But there's also going to be those that have went under the radar. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been Vigilante, and these are going to be my reviews. And again, I'm open for suggestions. The comment section below is always open, and you know, I'm new to this, so suggestions are welcome. Peace.